Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Dayton. I'm the Director of Visions, and thank you for joining me for tonight for this webinar. It will last 20 to 25 minutes, and then there will be time for questions at the end. And if you have any questions, feel free to type those on your screen. You should see a box where you can type questions, and then I will address those at the end. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and you should be able to see these slides. Excuse me. Um, okay, here we go. Great. Good. So Visions is an organization that really sets the standard for teen community service programs. We have locations in the US and around the world, and we've had almost 30 years to perfect our summer experiences. Most of our programs are for high school students, and we also have two middle school programs. So your summer is important. There are only a few summers during your high school years. And after this, there really aren't that many other opportunities, even in college and definitely not as an adult. These experiences can really be one of the best parts of growing up and can help give more direction to so many other things ahead in your life. There are a lot of options these days when it comes to summer programs, and it's often hard to even know what questions to ask when you're making plans and assessing all the different options. So, for example, there is no governing body that oversees teen travel programs. There aren't criteria for staff background checks, safety protocols, insurance, homestay families, and the list goes on. So, unlike US based summer camps, for example, where there's an accrediting association, anyone can draft an international teen program, build a great website, and be in business to take teens overseas. On the other end of the spectrum, volunteer travel has really become kind of big business. And so you want to dig deeper than just the marketing and really get a sense of the quality of the programs. And we will cover some of these things with respect to visions in this webinar. Real projects, or excuse me, this slipped ahead. So why Visions? Visions has intentionally remained a smaller organization. We're focused on doing an exceptional job with the programs we have in place and with our participants' experiences. We're one of the first community service travel programs for students, and our model's been in place for almost 30 years. Our teens have completed more than 1,300 construction projects, in addition to environmental work and social service, such as day camps for young kids. And we've lived in and worked in almost all of our sites for more than 15 years and have been in some locations for 25 years. Regardless of which program you choose, which location you choose with Visions, there are four main ingredients that play out across all locations. Real projects. So this is a defining characteristic of our programs. For anyone who has done volunteer work, you probably know that it can be hard for organizations to manage volunteers and keep people busy with meaningful work. For teens who don't come with defined skills such as engineering or construction, it requires being really organized and having the teaching mechanisms in place, and also having great partners in order to make the projects productive and also fun. Visions does a lot of ambitious projects from the ground up. There's usually one central project on the program and then a few others, smaller projects going on at the same time. We've built a lot of schools, homes, water systems, wheelchair ramps, playgrounds, even dog houses in places that need help with care for animals. You'll typically get to choose from three, sometimes four projects that are going on at a time. And and you'll be learning the building process as you go. You'll be learning how to use the power tools from our carpenters and project coordinators. So you're not just going to be carrying buckets of nails for our leaders. You'll be doing the building, learning on the job, and working with community members at almost all of the work sites. So, what makes Visions unique when it comes to community service? There are a number of things. Certainly, with the increase of volunteerism or volunteer travel, there's been increased scrutiny around travel service trips, and probably rightfully so. For Visions, our relationships in communities are really what drive the projects. These are local nonprofits and grassroots groups that are doing good work. They're in touch with the needs of the community. They have a vision for making improvements, but they often don't have the resources it, with their economies to move forward. So we plug into the projects that they decide on. We help with the planning, and we bring funding and the energy of teenagers to complete the projects. Depending on the location, we do traditional carpentry with power tools and lumber. We also build with adobe or block and mortar, as you see here in Nicaragua. And then we also run a number of day camps and do environmental projects. This picture is from 2002 in Alaska, and it was a 3-summer project to build an elder youth center where we did everything from cutting down timber, milling logs at a portable mill, designing a special foundation for permafrost, and then building the structure. And in November of 2002, just a few months after we completed the project, there was a 7.9 Denali earthquake. It leveled or destroyed practically every building in our village and many other villages surrounding. But this place was totally undamaged, and it became the temporary refuge for the community while they rebuilt, and then also was the school for the year while the school got rebuilt. You know, this is just one example of the type of projects that we do and the scope. In our Caribbean locations, we build to hurricane standards, and a lot of the places we've built are the hurricane shelters, and the list really goes on. Relationships and immersion. So this is the second ingredient that is true of every Visions program, and it is in equal stead with the service work that we do. One really wouldn't be there without the other. Visions is not a team tour model, so we don't travel all through a country and do small projects as we go, and maybe meet people who are more peripheral to the experience. Instead, our model is that we settle into the community for the duration of the program, and that's our base. And we do some weekend travel, but we have that base. We live in a local neighborhood, and we're really part of the fabric of daily life. There are pickup games with neighbor kids. We get to know the local markets and where to buy ingredients for meals. And we're constantly part of that local scene. On language programs, I should mention that this is also a great opportunity to work on French or Spanish skills. So what makes Visions unique in terms of cultural immersion? And and how this will play out for your summer experience. After so many years in these places and with programs that are so well grounded, our participants are really welcomed like close friends. The relationships have been established. I should say with Visions programs, community members aren't just subject matter of discussions about cultural differences or poverty, for example. They are our friends, they're our equals, and we do a lot of things with each other. This picture on the Montana Blackfeet Reservation is of one of the annual powwows that we go to. In addition to the powwow every year, in recent years, we've also been invited to one of the annual very sacred Sundance ceremonies. It's a really great honor as non-tribal members to be invited, and an example of how our relationships are really so ingrained in the programs and in your experience. So adventurous exploration, this is the third ingredient. And even though service projects are certainly central to the experience, it's not a labor camp with Visions. We balance the work with play, and after work hours and weekends are carved out for activities and other excursions. We go places and we do things that are only known to locals, like workshops with artists, scenic hikes, tours. We learn to cook local meals, etc. But we also don't miss out on some of those main attractions that make each of our program locations destinations. In Peru, for example, we go to Machu Picchu. In Alaska, we go ice climbing. There are a lot of wilderness excursions. In Cambodia, we go to Angkor Wat, which is one of the wonders of the world. In the British Virgin Islands, there are a lot of island-based activities. We also go scuba diving there. In Ecuador, we go to the Galapagos for the last few days of the program, and the list goes on. I should mention that looking at the activities for the program locations that interest you most is often a good way of deciding which program location to sign up for. So you know that if you're going on a Visions program, there is going to be meaningful service, and also cultural exchange that you're really going to get a lot out of. But the excursions are going to be unique to each different place. So, community building. This is the fourth ingredient of Visions programs, and it's sort of the matrix that binds everything else together. It includes our host communities, of course, but it also is our group of kids and our leaders. You know, there are a lot of shared goals on a Visions program, with the projects, with being part of something bigger than ourselves. And with that, we focus on having a supportive and inclusive group dynamic, where we're all part of the process and really having a positive experience. One way that we do this is by having group meetings 3 to 4 nights a week. They last an hour, hour and a half at most, and this is a good time to get to know everybody at the beginning. And then as the program progresses, it's a chance to reflect on the volunteer and cultural experience, and also air any issues that might be brewing before they affect the greater program experience. Something that's unique about community building with Visions is how deliberate we are about it, and that it's ingrained. We don't take it for granted, and we know that it takes work to build communication skills and really make it a positive summer for everyone. With this, I should mention that almost all of our participants come by themselves, not knowing anyone else. And we're unique in that we don't allow more than 2 close friends to come together. And we also don't introduce people in advance. So we all start together on day one and go from there. Here's a picture that speaks to community building. This was a pretty sophisticated footbridge that we built in Mississippi. It was definitely a full team effort, and with a lot of communication and hands on deck. Visions leaders, they are certainly part of the group dynamic and become friends with kids. They're also mentors, and they understand what's required to run a great program. Just as our students come from diverse backgrounds and interests, our leaders are also diverse. There are a lot of teachers and outdoor educators, returned Peace Corps volunteers, grad students who have their summers available. Our leaders aren't college kids who are just a few years older than participants. The minimum age is 22, and most are in their mid 20s to early 30s. Also important is that we keep a 1 to 4 leader ratio, 1 to 4 or 5 leader ratio. And I don't know of any other programs like Visions that has such a high leader ratio. And that doesn't even include the additional local staffers who we hire as project coordinators, drivers, dinner cooks, etc. Our project partners, they're an extension of our leaders and incredibly important to the program and to your experience. They are local nonprofits and individuals, and they and their families also become close friends. This top picture is of Alberto Ramos and his 3 kids. Alberto has worked with us for 20 years in the Dominican Republic, and he's a member of the Lions Club, which has been our partner in the DR for 25 years. And, there are thousands of Lions Clubs around the world. And this club comes from a very middle class neighborhood of Santo Domingo. Lions Clubs accumulate points based on the scale and the scope of their projects. And our partner club has actually been one of the top 5 ranked clubs in the world for the past few years. Most of those large scale projects have been with Visions. In fact, there are about 3,200 kids, Dominican kids, who go to school every year in schools that we've built with the club. And that's in addition to community centers, homes, a medical clinic, baseball fields, and the list really goes on. Safety. Safety is certainly something we're asked a lot about from parents, and you can read more on the FAQ page of our website. There are specific protocols for each location, and then there are also a lot of overarching things that we do to address safety across the board. Our leader ratio and the supervision certainly plays an important role. Also, that we're known in our communities, we're in touch with them on a year-round basis, and they want the best for our programs and the safety of our participants. It's very different than a tour, for example, where you're passing through and don't have that same level of relationships with contacts. Also, we're not an adventure or risk-based program. Visions is very conservative when it comes to choosing the locations where we work and where we continue to go back to. Also, our leaders go through pretty intensive training. The director of each program goes through more than 2 weeks of training before participants even arrive. And that's in addition to their previous summers. 45 to 55% of our leaders return each year. And in terms of training, part of the leader training takes place at our home headquarters. So the year-round Visions team and I spend time with each leader before they go into the field for additional training. Also, the premium we place on communication, which is something quite specific to the Visions model. In addition to the meetings that kids and leaders have that I mentioned, our leaders have daily logistics check-ins, and then once a week they have longer meetings where they go through a list of each participant and how is each person doing? Is there anything that needs to be addressed with the program, etc. And then finally, with communication, our program director is in touch with our home office, usually at least twice a week. And there are methodical questions that we go through to address various aspects of the program. I should mention one last thing on safety, which is that the fact that we're able to run construction projects with teenagers and have insurance to do so also speaks to the long history of our SAFE programs. So, taking a step back from all of these ingredients of the Visions programs, what does this mean for kids? What stays with you after the summer's over, and often stays with people many, many years down the line? These quotes are 2 of literally hundreds that we have from parents and kids over the years. And there are many things that stay with you. Teamwork and life skills. This is something that comes from all parts of the program, including what we call home base day. So I mentioned that you get to choose your work site typically 4 days a week. And then the fifth day, you'll be on home base crew with a few other kids and a leader. You'll get up a bit early to make breakfast for everyone. And then when everybody else goes to their work sites, home base crew cleans up, runs errands, goes to local markets and buys food for the next meals. So it's a fun day in the life day and also a chance to learn some of these real life skills. Being unplugged. So Visions is a gadget-free program. We collect cell phones and other devices. Um, Although you're welcome to travel with them during your flights, we do collect them for the program. And by being unplugged, it really allows you to plug into everything else that's going on around. And there really is so much to do and see. You know, I would honestly wonder about programs like ours that are open to having tech devices. It's easy to have hours of a day or a week go by without having other things scheduled if you're having screen time. You know, the same is true for us as adults. But there are so many other things to take advantage of if if you're really running a mindful program like we do. It's not at all punitive, and we get a lot of positive feedback from kids on this front. I should mention that our leaders also aren't uh, highly connected to the internet. So for parents who are sending your program on Visions, you should know that you won't be getting regular blog updates or photo albums from the field. It's just not what we want our leaders spending time doing. We don't want to take them away from the program and your kids in order to have regular blog posts and force them to be connected and find internet cafes. Um, that said, at the end of the program, we do post online photos, and so you'll get to see all of those once the program's over. Also, we make time for kids to call home once a week, and you'll also get a call upon arrival. And then parents, you have the program phone number if you need to get in touch, and then also a 24-hour number for our home office. Making new friends, learning gratitude and empathy. This is a big one, and it's one of the most important things in some ways. Something special about Visions programs is that you really learn to walk in another person's shoes, and it's not just from a vantage point of observation. It's really being part of people's lives in a way where uh, that's relationship driven. It includes friends from the group for sure, and also the community. In fact, we've had a lot of participants return to their program site, take their parents, and introduce their family to local friends who they've stayed in touch with. Okay, grit and determination through meaningful work. I love this picture. This is a water system that we built in Nicaragua several years ago, and it was hard work. We dug trenches, we laid pipe, we were joined by dozens of community members, and it was a project that they couldn't do on their own because the pipe and all of the fittings were just too expensive for them to afford. If you can see the lake in the background of the picture, that's where people, mostly women from the community, had to walk with buckets every day to fill with water. Added to that, the water at that lake is not particularly clean. So now with this potable water system, there are about 300 households that not only have water delivered to a few community spigots, but it's also clean drinking water that's spring fed. And we've done a number of these water projects in Nicaragua, also some in Peru that are somewhat similar. Pride in a job well done. I think this one kind of goes without saying. And more. There are a lot of other things on a Visions program: language skills, communication, really being part of a new culture, um, and going home a more globally minded citizen. Okay, so I'm now going to just quickly kind of breeze through our 12 program locations, some of which have a first and second session. Our Northern United States programs, in Alaska, we've been working with Native Athabascan communities for more than 15 years. We're based at we're at the base of the Wrangell Mountains. And then we started working on Montana Indian reservations 25 years ago. We do traditional carpentry with power tools at these sites. And they're also really interesting places to be culturally, also beautiful backdrops. Here's some more pictures. You can see the dates for these programs and all of our programs on our website under dates and fees. Mississippi is a place that we started working after Hurricane Katrina, and we're one of the very few volunteer groups still returning. There are a lot of big projects that we've done, and now this program is equally focused on a lot of environmental justice and social justice issues and the projects that go with them. High quality, low income housing, and a lot of environmental projects with the Audubon Society. One of our weekend excursions is to New Orleans. The British Virgin Islands is a place where we've been living and working for 25 years. Miss Carol here has been our cook and house mother for all of those years. It's another place where we do traditional carpentry, and despite the tourism of the BVI, there are a lot of pockets of real need, and that's where we work. Our Spanish programs in the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and Peru, they have the same ingredients as all of our programs, but then the added bonus of getting to work on your language skills. This picture under the stars is actually one of our leaders being in touch with the home office during one of those biweekly check-ins that I mentioned. And then this is an irrigation canal that's part of miles of water conservation systems that we've built in Peru. And then also a picture with one of our local artisans. I should mention that if you want some additional photos of any program location, just let us know, drop us a line or call us, and we can email you links to some additional photos. And Guadeloupe, this is our French language immersion program. We've been working in Guadeloupe for more than 15 years, and we're on the island of Marie-Galante. A lot of our projects focus on environmental initiatives. We also work with an organic farming cooperative and run day camps for local kids, which is also a great way of working on your French. And then our Southeast Asia programs in Cambodia and Myanmar. These are two of our newest programs, and they're really fascinating places with great cultural activities and excursions. We do a lot of work with local youth in addition to construction projects that are mostly aimed at school infrastructure. And this picture here is of Bagan, Myanmar. If you've never heard of Bagan, you should Google it and look at some images. It's a really incredible place and one of our weekend excursions. And finally, our two middle school programs. We work in the British Virgin Islands and on the Montana Northern Cheyenne Reservation, and they follow the high school programs that are in the same locations. They're sweet programs for this age group. They're age-appropriate construction projects and activities, and really, a great next step after traditional sleepaway camp, with all of those same visions ingredients. Okay, so next steps. First is to choose your program location if you haven't done so already. And in terms of applying, the application is on our website and it's very straightforward. Parents can complete part of the application if you want to, and then students need to complete a questionnaire. We also require contact information for two references, a guidance counselor and another adult who knows you well. We don't need reference letters, just that contact information. And then, of course, contact us with any questions. You can email us or call us directly. After the webinar, there should also be a screen that shows up where you can schedule a call, or again, just call us at your convenience. So, we look forward to being in touch. We're excited for your Vision Summer if you've already decided to join us. And thank you again for joining me for this informational webinar. Without further ado, let's go ahead into any questions. You can, again, type those right on your screen and I will address them as they come in. Great. Let's see here. I'm also going to okay. Great. So questions. It looks like, okay, someone is asking about the group size. Good. So the maximum group size is 25 participants, and with a group of 25, we keep 6 leaders. Most of our programs do fill, but some are smaller groups. Some middle school programs are smaller groups. I should mention that between now and mid to late March is when most of the applications come in, and a lot of our programs are starting to fill. Also, we do keep the programs gender balanced, and we will close a program for a gender. So with a maximum group size of 25, we don't allow more than 15 of either gender. Next question, asking to tell us a little bit more about where we live. Good. I didn't go too much into this. So I mentioned we live right in a local neighborhood, and that's usually in a community center or school that we convert into our house, or in some places we rent a house where we live. And we have separate rooms for boys and girls, usually bunk rooms. And then leaders live with kids. There are showers, bathrooms, kitchen, common area. It's basic living, but it's clean and comfortable. Next question, can I bring a camera? Yes, you can bring a camera, but it can't be attached to an internet device. So let us know if you have questions. We want you to bring a camera. You're more than welcome to have it every day. It just can't be part of a smartphone since we don't want the internet devices on the program. The next question is asking to compare Ecuador and Peru, and it looks like you're also going to call with more questions, which is great. So they're very similar programs, Ecuador and Peru are. We're in Andean communities. One of the main differences is that in Peru, we go to Machu Picchu, and Ecuador, we go to the Galapagos Islands. Also, Ecuador is our only high school program that is especially geared for underclassmen up through rising juniors, whereas all of the other high school programs are for all grades of high school. So other than that, those two in particular are quite similar. The next question is about the age for middle school programs. Good. So 14-year-olds are in the unique position where they get to choose between middle school or high school. They do well on both programs. And, we get asked a lot of questions about age. And for the high school programs, it's almost like a bell curve in terms of the age distribution of 15, 16, and 17 being the most common ages. But I really would encourage you not to worry too much about age. I think it matters a lot less on visions programs than it does during day-to-day school life. And we get that comment repeatedly from kids. In fact, there's a blog article on our blog from a participant named Payden DeVore, and you can read that if you're curious about how age plays out. Good. Somebody else asking about the Myanmar program and the excursions. So it looks like you're going to also call in, which is great. Myanmar, we live and work at a monastery school. It's an incredible place. I visited about a year and a half ago, and there are about 2,000 novice monk students at this monastery school. It's open to all religions. It's run by a very progressive monk. He's gotten support from the Soros Foundation, and he is doing a lot of work on the education system in Myanmar. So we're in a very cool place, a lot of great projects. And then also I mentioned you should check out Bagan if you haven't yet. Good. I don't see any other questions coming in, but again, if you have typed a question and I haven't seen it, please just email or call. And for everybody who needs to sign off for the evening, thank you again for joining me. We hope that you'll join us this summer if you haven't already, and I look forward to being in touch. All right, have a great night.